580cc jet ski motor that I'm putting on this thing. So it all happened when I was driving by a different part of town, and I seen this weird looking trike on the side of the road, so I decided to stop and investigate. I was greeted by an older man who was really eager to share his life story, and eventually I asked him if he'd be willing to sell it, and the rest is history. So how long ago did your son build this?
4 or 5 years, I think.
Oh wow.
Had it long enough to get a DUI on it.
Really?
At 2:30 in the morning, him and another friend of his got hungry and didn't have no other way to go. They took this and went to the Waffle House.
Waffle House?
They were leaving. The cops spotted them. They had a buddy was standing like this with a flashlight. Quite a story with that DUI.
Yeah.
These are the pieces that are hospital bed. Come on in, I don't want the dog to get out. My 102-year-old milling machine.
Righty guys, so here it is. This thing is the jankiest looking trike I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot of janky ones. It's crazy. I guess his intention was to hot rod it. So I originally saw this thing on the road. I had to stop and look at it. The welds on this thing aren't the greatest. They look to be way too cold. Exhaust tubing used everywhere. It's very heavy. That being said, we're gonna make this trike great again, and we're gonna make it epic. I'm gonna be swapping in a 580cc 2-stroke jet ski motor, and it's going to be plenty. Before I start cutting this thing up, I'm actually really curious to see as how it would handle with a Tillotson 212. Go Power Sports actually sent me a couple of their engines to try out. One of them I actually modified, and I put a billet rod and a high performance cam in. It's actually rated for around 12 to 13 horsepower. I'm really curious as to see how this thing handles and if it'll even be able to spin the tires. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump right in. Okay, moment of truth. Is the bolt pattern the same? No, it is not. So the fender is in the way of the CVT. Lucky for us, we had a plate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bolt the engine to it, align the torque converter with the sprocket, and weld this plate exactly how it sits. It is getting dark, so I really want to finish this today. And since I don't have much metal to weld to, I'll be using these Gussets. I'll have the link in the description for these. They're pretty cheap. Okay, that engine is going nowhere. Alright, there it is. Okay guys, so I got that Tillotson in. This thing looks like it has some crazy gear reduction, so I don't know if it's even going to go any fast. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and take it for a little rip here. Change out the stupid handlebars and try to get these brakes working, but couldn't get them to work. So for now we only have these mechanical front brakes. I don't know if you want to call that drifting, but it turns out this thing actually has an open diff right here. I don't know what it's from. It might be off a lawnmower. Honestly, that kind of sucks. If this thing had a live axle, it'd be so much better. We'll give it a few more goes, then we're going to take this thing off and put the 580cc two-stroke motor on this thing. Guys, this thing is actually pretty fun to drive. You can honestly stand up like that. If it was a little bit warmer, I could probably ride it for a long time and just be content with it. But I'm doing this just for you guys. Alright, so here it is guys, the 580cc jet ski motor that I'm putting on this thing. Of course, some of you are wondering where I got this engine from and how I'm going to make this thing work, because it's meant for a marine grade application. So basically my friend was given this engine for free. I don't know if there's anything wrong with it. I don't think so. And he gave it to me and he told me to build something out of it. This is a jet ski motor, and the reason why it's not in the jet ski is because it's a 587. It's kind of underpowered for a jet ski, and that's how it ended up being in my hands. Yeah, you can still have fun with the 580cc. It's just going to be pretty slow and not as fast as the bigger ones like a 687 or a 727. So this is how I ended up with this engine. So here's how I'm going to make this twin-cylinder Rotax engine work. It's going to be a lot of work, but the swap is totally possible. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to delete this carburetor and the oil injection, and then run 2 flat slide motorcycle carburetors, and then I'll just have to mix my gas. And as long as I tune it properly, it should be fine. Then we're going to have to run an electric water pump to a Honda Civic radiator to cool off this pipe. And I'm actually going to run one of my old CVT systems. I'm going to weld a sprocket onto there and run it via a jack shaft. This thing isn't actually going to be too hard to work on. I think we got this. This axle isn't coming off, so I'm just going to plasma cut it. Let's go ahead and cut this chain while we're at it. Oh, and by the way, it looks like these wheels were welded straight onto the axle. Okay, now it is time to lighten this thing. It's way too heavy. Remove all the sheet metal and square tubing and shorten it. Okay, so the seating position will be something like this. I'll have pegs going up front. Now some of you may be thinking that's too much rake. Well, this thing isn't really going to be a speed demon. I'm only going to gear it to go like 40 at the most, 40, 50. So it's not really going to be that fast. Maybe we can figure out a way to shorten these forks and make it a little bit lower.
Now things escalated pretty quickly here, if you know what I mean. We ended up cutting this whole trike apart. Now most of the metal was just unusable, and it would have taken a bunch of time to clean it up to get it in good shape. So I ended up just starting from scratch. Here's a little montage to the trike. To whoever built it, I'm sorry. On a more serious note, it's time to get started on bending the frame rails for the new trike. I'm trying to make everything compact, look nice and strong, and I'm using bigger 1 1/4 inch tube for this, whereas usually I only use 1 inch tube, so this should be pretty strong. This first design was actually too small, so I had to try again, and I think we got it the second time. Okay, at this point, I'm really just mocking everything up. I'm not still really sure yet if I want the axle to be after the engine or before.
That's gonna be it for this video. This trike is something that I'm just gonna have to work on in the background while I wait for parts. That's really the whole intention with this build. Now I have to say I do kind of regret buying that trike. It was kind of a waste of time just for it to be cut up. Should have just left it there, but oh well. I'm really excited to see where this goes. So shout out to HGP for their excellent machines. The plasma cutter was phenomenal. Big thanks to Go Power Sports for supplying the parts. But I'll have to catch you guys in the next video. Stay tuned, peace, and God bless.